Hey, what's going on guys? It's Carbon here bringing you guys today a brand new video, and in today's video I'm here to talk about 3 reasons why Call of Duty players hate Battlefield. Now, when I say Call of Duty players, not all Call of Duty players hate Battlefield. You know, there's a good amount of people who enjoys both games, including myself. And but there's also a good amount of people who doesn't like Battlefield, and I'm here to tell you why. So starting things off, first, I mean this year, especially this year, Call of Duty got a lot of hate, right? It's the most disliked video game of all time, right? And it makes sense to get that review because Call of Duty is just, you know, it's not as exciting as it used to be, okay? I remember when like Modern Warfare came out, I was so excited. You know, I used to watch almost every YouTube video about, you know, Modern Warfare, and it was such an exciting time. But now it's just more like, oh yeah, a new Call of Duty is coming out, you know, I might check it out. You know, it's kind of like that. It's not as exciting as it used to be, and it makes sense. You know, all these supply drop system, all these boost jumping and all that, it really killed the game. And you know, they need this kind of rating so that they can, you know, work on their game. But on the other hand, Battlefield is doing great this year. Obviously, they decided to go back in time. You know, we're doing World Wars out here, and it's great. Okay, the game is great. It looks amazing. It plays out amazing, and they've done a good job. I can tell you that. But there's still a whole bunch of people who still doesn't like Battlefield, and I'm here to tell you why. Because starting things off, they're two different games. First of all, even though they're both first-person shooters, they're two different games. So with that being said, let's take a look at our first reason why Call of Duty players hate Battlefield. Now, the first reason that I can think of is because of larger maps and larger player count. Now, obviously, Battlefield has larger maps because you have 60 players in a game, especially if you're talking about Conquest here, which is the most you know, popular game mode in Battlefield 1 or in Battlefield in general. And you know, there's 60 players, larger maps, and you know, compared to Call of Duty, they're a lot smaller maps, right? Usually in Call of Duty maps, you can get from one end to the other in less than 60 seconds. With all these boost jumping and whatnot, it's definitely less than 60 seconds. So you can get from one end to the other, right? Even the biggest map in Call of Duty. So whereas in Battlefield, it's more like, you know, there's multiple gunfights or multiple battlefields around the map. So there's a lot of things happening in one map, and there's lots of players, and it's just, you know, it's totally different from Battlefield. And I'm one of those people who doesn't really like, you know, larger maps. I feel like I like Call of Duty because it's fast-paced. You know, you get to see the enemy more often. You get to kill the same person more often. And you know, just because one player, or just because, like, you know, if one player does bad in your team, that means your team's gonna suffer, right? In Call of Duty, because the teams consist of usually 6 players, right? And in Battlefield, there's like 30 players in one side, and you know, a couple of people do bad, who cares, right? If the rest of them do good, you pretty much win, right? But whereas in Call of Duty, it's more competitive, I think, in my opinion, because you know, you have less people on your team, and your whole team expect to do at least decent so you can win a game, and you get to kill the same person every time, and it's always fun because that's how people get pissed, and you can get all these reactions, which I enjoy a lot. And you know, that's one of the reasons that I might think that Battlefield doesn't have. But I mean, not to get me wrong, they do have smaller maps where you can play team deathmatch and domination, but you know, not a lot of people play that, right? Conquest is like the most popular game mode in Battlefield, and you know, where all the vehicles are and all that. So you know, I'm basically comparing Conquest to all the, you know, popular game modes in Call of Duty, which is team deathmatch and domination per se. So that's one of the reasons, bigger maps and player count. That really makes the two games, you know, a lot different from each other. And the second reason that I can think of is vehicles. Now, again, my personal opinion, I hate vehicles. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, they're fun to use at times, but every time when I feel like, if I'm alone and if I come across a tank, I am dead, alright? I'm not even trying, because if I don't, especially if I'm playing as, you know, someone who doesn't carry, like, dynamite or whatever, especially if you're playing as a scout or something, or medic, you don't have anything to, you know, play against a tank. You're dead, right? You're dead meat. If you come across a tank, you're dead meat. And I hate that every time when you're doing good, and all of a sudden there's either a plane or a tank or something comes behind you and just absolutely destroy you. And I hate that. But I mean, at the same time, it's fun to use those things. I mean, I've used the tank a few times, and it's fun to use those because, you know, you can go ham sometimes. You can stack up all those kills. Whereas in Call of Duty, obviously, you don't have vehicles anymore. I mean, you have these, you know, kill streaks that you can use where you can control stuff, but they're not compared to any of the tanks in Battlefield, right? They're just kill streaks. You can usually take them down pretty fast, and you know, is a lot different. And yeah, so that's another reason why I think Call of Duty players, might not like Battlefield. Now, my final reason that I can think of is that Call of Duty is a lot easier to play than Battlefield. Battlefield requires a lot of skill. Now, don't get me wrong, Call of Duty players are probably getting mad right now, but I feel like Call of Duty right now, it used to be a very skill level game. Like, it used to be where you need to play the game a lot and understand the game to do good. But now I feel like with all these specialist classes and all this new stuff they've added in, Call of Duty has got to a point where you don't really need that much skill to get a kill in that game, right? Like, let's just say someone who just started out Call of Duty, you get into a game, you might die, right? You might end up dying a lot, but you get your specialists, you might be able to get a kill just because the specialists are really powerful. Whereas in Battlefield, it's not the case. Battlefield, you have to play a while for the game. Like, you have to play the game a few times and then get used to the maps, to get used to the guns, because they're totally different. Like, they're hard to use, like the aim. For example, sniping. Sniping is quite difficult compared to Call of Duty. Sniping in Battlefield 1 is, really complicated and really hard in my personal opinion compared to Call of Duty. Call of Duty is all about quick scoping and you run and gun with a sniper, but that's not the case in Battlefield. You can't really run and gun with a sniper in Battlefield. You have to stay down, stay back, and wait for people, and then pick out that really long range kills. So in my personal opinion, Battlefield requires a lot of skill. Not to say, Call of Duty does require skill. If you want to do good, like, you have to be skilled. Like, for example, if I compare myself to like Optic Scumpy or someone who's like a pro player and who's like the best player in the world, obviously, like, he has a lot more skill than me because he knows how to play the game way better than me. But it doesn't mean that a person who doesn't really know how to play the game and they can still get into Call of Duty and still do okay. But whereas if the very first time he plays Battlefield, he's gonna get raped because the game is a lot difficult to get used to. So these are some of the reasons why I think Call of Duty players might hate Battlefield. But there are obviously a lot of other reasons, a lot of little things to take into consideration, but these are some of the main reasons why I think why Call of Duty players don't really like Battlefield. And especially this year, if you're thinking about buying one game, just think again. Alright, you might not, like, if you're a Call of Duty player for a long time, like myself here, I've been playing Call of Duty for so long. I played since Call of Duty 2, man, and I don't think I still like Battlefield more than Call of Duty. I always enjoy playing Call of Duty. It's just the way how the game is played. It's not, I'm not hating on Battlefield. Battlefield is a great game, but it's just two different games and you can't really compare, although they're both first-person shooters. So if you're thinking about buying one game this year, I think you should give both games a try, and maybe, like, if you can grab it off your friend or look at some YouTube videos. It's really hard to say whether you're gonna like it or not unless you start playing it. So I suggest, before spending your money, you might want to wait for Call of Duty. The beta was out, so if you got a chance to play the beta, then you probably have a good understanding of how the game plays, both games, because Battlefield's obviously out right now. And the best way that I can think of is try playing if you can own like Battlefield 4 or something, which will give you a good understanding of how Battlefield plays out. Because obviously games are really cheap right now, so like Battlefield 4 is really cheap right now, so you can maybe give it a try. But if you're thinking about spending your game on one game this year, money on one game this year, and you might really want to rethink what you want to buy. Just because Call of Duty got really negative ratings doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. It's still enjoyable, and I think the most of the reason why Call of Duty got all this hate is because of Battlefield, because Battlefield was doing so good and everybody just basically started comparing two games, although they're two different types of games. Although they're first-person shooters, again, they have two different styles. So I don't know, man. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, because I enjoy both games, but I personally think I prefer Call of Duty style over Battlefield style, but they're still both great games. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Please give a thumbs up if you like it, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, guys.